Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to detect a touch ended or a collision ended effectively. So we all know in Roblox Studio there's touched events, and so with touched events it's just it detects collisions. So anytime a player or anything touches a part, it detects the collision. And there is also touch ended, which touch ended isn't completely reliable because it detects touch ended even whilst you're still on a part. So if I play here, if I touch the part, you'll see that it prints touched and touch ended. That's because it detects the collision ended for that specific point that you've collided with. So once that has ended, then it prints it. But that doesn't necessarily work with the case we want. We want the touch to end once you are specifically off the part. In order for us to do that, we're going to be using something called spatial queries. So if you guys want a video on that separately, I can definitely make that. Just let me know down in the comments. But so we're going to be using spatial queries to accurately detect an entrance and an exit. So let's just get started. So I'm going to create a part right here. I'm just going to make it different color transparency, anchored, kind of collide off, and let's put a script inside of here. So first thing we're going to do is get the part, and then the first thing we're going to do from there is detect collision. So with a spatial query, basically how it works, we're going to create a variable called the zone, and then in that zone variable we're going to say workspace get parts in part. Now this is one function of spatial queries. So this is a spatial query, and this is one function of them. And basically what this does is pretty self-explanatory. It gets the parts that are in the part that you include inside of this parameter. So basically it'll return a list of everything that is within this part, and this does it one time. So whenever we say zone equals workspace get parts in part, every time we get the zone, it's checking the part inside of this part once. So if I say warn zone and I run this, you'll see it prints an empty table. This is because there's nothing in this zone. There's just nothing in here. If let's put this in here, and then I run, you'll see that because this part is within the zone, it prints part. Okay. Now you can see the thing is with that is that it only does it once. So if I put this inside of this part again, it won't do it again. That's because we've only defined the variable once, and we're only using it once. So with that being said, we need to wrap this within a loop. I'm just going to be using a while loop for this. So while task.wait do, and now if we do it like this, and then I print zone, I print the zone now, it's going to be constant. So that being said, we need to detect if it is a collision from our character. So in order to do that, because this is a list, right, it's a table, we're gonna make a loop, a for loop, and we're gonna loop through that list. And then we're gonna check if the part that is colliding, or the part that is in the zone, is a character. So we're gonna say if part.parent for child humanoid, then born. Now if I play here, you'll see character collision. Now what we want to do is detect collisions and detect when a collision has ended. In order to do that, I'm gonna make a table. Let's call it current characters. And then I'm gonna make one out here called previous characters. Whenever there's a character collision, I wanna insert the character that's being collided with into the current characters folder. So part.parent. So part.parent is the character, and also I do not want it to constantly insert the character if the character is already in this table. So I'm gonna say and not table dot find current characters part dot point. If I don't include this, what's gonna end up happening is it's gonna constantly add the same character every single time there's a collision, and that's gonna result in problems because we're gonna have duplicate characters in the table. Okay, so now we're checking if it's not already in there, then add it. This will just make sure that this will basically say like if a player is detected. So a player has been detected within the zone. We'll be able to tell because there's going to be a character within this current characters folder table. Okay, then from there, what I'm going to say is I want to loop through the current characters. So for I comma part, I comma character, in pairs hit current characters do, if not table dot find previous characters character, then again. Okay, so let me just explain what this does. So we have our current characters table, we have our previous characters table. On the first loop, the first iteration, previous characters table is obviously empty. There's nothing in there. And the current characters table is also empty. But if there's a collision, it's gonna add this, it's gonna add a character into the current characters table. Now, this is no longer gonna be empty, this is gonna have a character in it, and this is gonna be empty. Okay, so whenever whenever we loop the current characters table, we're checking to see if we can't find the same character we found in current characters in the previous characters table. That means that it was empty, and this is them entering the zone or their collision. So that's how we distinguish between it being an exit and an enter. We know it's an enter because the previous table, the previous characters table was empty, and the current characters table isn't empty. It has the character. Since it couldn't find the character within the previous table, that means that they entered. Okay. Now with that being said, the previous character table never updates. So we need this previous characters table to have the current characters every single iteration. So I'm just gonna say previous characters equals current characters. Now this is for entering, so we need one for exiting. So for the collision ended, we're gonna say for I comma character in pairs previous characters do, if not table dot find So basically what I've done is the exact same thing, but it's the opposite. So what I've done is the opposite of this. So instead of looping through the current characters and finding if there isn't a previous character, we're looping through the previous characters and finding if there isn't a current character. So it's just a flip, basically. We've basically it's the same thing, but we flip these two. And so it's the same idea. We're looping through the previous characters. If it can't find the character that was in the previous characters table within the current characters table, then that means that that character is no longer in the zone, therefore they've exited. So that's basically the whole concept here. Now let's test this out. This is touch ended. Pretty bad, so we're getting touch ended constantly. But then on this one, if we enter, it'll say that I've entered the zone. If I exit the zone. Enter, exit, enter, exit, enter, exit. Alright, thank you guys for watching. If this video was helpful, make sure to subscribe and like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.